My name's Fidan. I'm a family law solicitor practicing in Sydney, Australia. Imagine a court telling you that your 12-year relationship never existed. That's the story I'm going to tell you today. It's a recent decision of Division 1 of the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia, and it's a good one. The case is called Cizek and Myhov. I'm going to call Cizek Rose. I've just made that up for convenience. I'm going to call him Mick. So Rose and Mick, Rose says, was in a relationship for 12 years. She said the 12-year relationship spanned over two periods. The first one was between 2011 and 2013. They broke up for a year, got back together, and then from 2014 to 2023, they were in another de facto relationship. So altogether, cumulatively, they were together for 12 years in her mind. Now, she says it was a de facto relationship. They were more than just boyfriend, girlfriend, and more than just seeing each other. As a de facto, she has a claim on his assets when they broke up. This is what she says. So they break up in 2013. She then files an application to go after him and make a claim on his assets. He was very rich, very wealthy. Now, Mick says, no, you don't have a claim. We were not in a de facto relationship. I wanted us to be more. I wanted us to live together and be in a de facto relationship. But Rose, you never fucking wanted that. And because you didn't want it, you can't now say that you want to make a claim on my assets. So he defended the claim. He disputed that they were in a de facto relationship. We call that a threshold. So Rose had to go to court to get over the threshold to establish the jurisdiction of the court and prove, the onus was on her to prove it, that her and Mick were in fact in a de facto relationship. Mick, of course, said they were not. Now, the Act gives a list of criteria of what makes a de facto relationship. Now, in the list of criteria, no one point is determinative. So, of course, living together is a point. They never lived together. Notwithstanding they were together for all that time, they each have their own residence, and they didn't, although they'd stayed at each other's houses on occasion, not that often. The court found that it was less than 10 nights a year that she would stay at his place, less than 10 nights a year, other than when they were travelling together. So it wasn't a whole lot. They certainly were in a relationship. It was a committed relationship, but they lived separately. She was financially dependent on him. She also had a child. There is no doubt, and he admitted, that he financially supported her. Now, interestingly, Rose was on Centrelink benefits, which is like government assistance. Notwithstanding that, so she got her benefits, but he also financially supported her by paying her rent and giving her money for extras, food, bills, whatever. She was on a good wicket for a while there, let's face it. She travelled with him. Often they'd go on holidays together. They attended social events together from time to time. She would host events for him at his place as his partner from time to time. But importantly, she wanted and had the freedom to be with other men. That was not disputed. And in fact, there was this interesting part of the judgment where he saw on social media she'd posted a picture of a man, a random dude, laying on her lounge. And she posted it on like Facebook or something, and he saw it. So she wasn't hiding the fact that she was with other men. Now, this is what makes this case interesting, is that Mick wanted more from her. He wanted them to live together. He wanted to be in a committed, loving relationship with a mutual degree of commitment to a shared life. But she was holding back, man. She was holding back. She was on a good thing. He was supporting her. She got to live her life. She got to do whatever she liked with, the checks coming in. So he was the one who wanted more. He was kind of yearning for more, is what the judgment said. And he had hoped that in the future they would live together and perhaps something more. Maybe he loved her. I don't know. That bit wasn't in the judgment. But I imagine in my mind that he really loved her and she was kind of holding back. Anyway, he settled for less. He settled for what Rose was prepared to give him. And that was, from time to time they hung out. She would be wonderful company for him, but they did not live together and they didn't have any plans for a future life together. Aside from that, he had a good time when they used to hang out and they'd travel and do social things together. He shared his considerable wealth, that's in the judgment, his considerable wealth with her graciously and voluntarily. He settled for something less than a de facto relationship. Now, she's gone to court to say they were in a de facto relationship. What about all these things I did for you? We had a commitment together. The court looked at all the evidence and said to her, Rose, sorry, madam, you don't get over the threshold. You have not been able to prove that this meets the test of a de facto relationship. So your case is dismissed. You don't get over the threshold. I'm declaring that you and Mick were never in a de facto relationship. That's what the judge said at first instance. She declared there was no de facto relationship, which means Rose had no claim on his assets. Now, Rose, of course, wasn't happy with this decision. So she says to the judge, get lost. I don't agree with that. I'm appealing, God damn it. So she appeals. This was a Division 2 judge. You appeal to Division 1. So it's a single judge, Justice Austin. Here's the case. Reads the judgment. And remember, at an appeal, you don't get in the witness box all over again. It's an appeal as at the grounds it must be an error in law to be successful. You don't get another shot at the hearing. So she was stuck with the evidence that she gave at first instance. And this judge, Justice Austin, reviewed everything and said, actually, I'll show you what he said. At the trial, Rose effectively conceded the issue at the trial. She admitted in her case outline document that the respondent, that's Mick, had yearned for a more committed relationship, thereby strongly implying her unwillingness to match his level of commitment. So now on appeal, it's a very difficult task, madam, to change your mind because you lost at first instance, to now say to the appeal judge that you don't accept that. But that's the case she argued before the first judge. One of the other points they raised on appeal was this Centrelink idea. So Rose was claiming money from the government, saying she was not in a de facto relationship because then, of course, she can get government benefits because she's a single mum with a kid. So she was taking those benefits and saying to the government, representing that she was not in a de facto relationship. Whereas to this court, she was saying, oh, but I am in a de facto relationship, notwithstanding I took all that money fraudulently. So there was that problem. Now, in argument to that, so she admitted that she had given a false record to the government to get benefits. The husband had similarly declared he was in a de facto relationship with Rose so that he could distribute income to her in a tax-effective manner through one of his companies. So to do that, he had to sort of declare her as a class of person that is his partner as a de facto, and he had said in some financial documents that she was his de facto, which is somewhat inconsistent with his case. But the court found he in fact wanted her to be his de facto, right? He was yearning, I love that word, he was yearning for more. So it's not necessarily inconsistent, but even if it is inconsistent, that's really all she had. It's not enough. The court found that notwithstanding there had been representations which now were inconsistent, it wasn't enough for poor Rose to get over that threshold to now say that there was a de facto relationship. This is what Mick's evidence was. At the end of 2012, I began suspecting that Rose was involved in another relationship with another person when I inadvertently saw a message on her iPad. This caused considerable friction between us because I wanted an exclusive relationship. There's that yearning again. And was interested in pursuing something more serious and long-term. But she continually denied she was seeing someone else. Finally, in about March 2013, she posted a photograph of her male friend sleeping on her couch on social media. She eventually admitted they were romantically involved. But for several months, we had very little contact and no sexual intimacy took place. In about June, I stopped paying her rent, private school fees and other bills, and we stopped seeing each other altogether by the end of 2013. So His Honour Justice Austin, after reviewing all the evidence, decided that the trial judge got it absolutely right and the appeal should be dismissed. By him dismissing the appeal, effectively, he agreed with the decision that a de facto relationship never existed between Mick and Rose. It was something less than de facto, which is interesting. Now, of course, since she lost, Mick pipes up and says, I want my costs, I want my legal fees paid because she was wholly unsuccessful. Earlier stages in the sort of, before a registrar, when they were getting the appeal ready, Rose had to put $30,000 in trust as security for costs. So she'd already piped up 30 grand that was sitting there. Now, and he was now claiming 30 grand in costs. She'd spent $90,000 pursuing the appeal, 90 fucking grand. And he was asking for a third of that. So the court thought that was very reasonable and he got his costs. So that $30,000 she'd put up was released to him in payment of his costs. His actual costs were $30,039. She'd put in $30,000 as security for costs. Her actual costs were $90,000 and the court ordered that she pay him $30,000 for costs. So she lost and she lost bad. So I guess what we learned from this case is you can't, after the relationship is over, go back and try and redefine the relationship. It just doesn't work like that. Poor Rose, if she was really after his money, she should have agreed to move in with him. That's what I would have said. Live with him and then you could have made a claim. Never mind.